The manga starts, and we see a super rundown place, and from the outside, it was clear that it must have been abandoned, and no trespassing signs were written at every entrance. Inside, however, 7 people were sitting in a circle, and there was absolute silence among them. As one of the guys nods to everyone and asks if they have the pill or not, it seemed like they were here for something else. As we get to see all 6 people in that circle, they stare at what was in their hands, and the main guy speaks, telling them about how after an hour they would make sure to work as a team. He began to spout his theories, but the real reason they gathered there was sad and hurtful. As an hour passed away, our main protagonist himself does the unthinkable, and as he did this, we learn the things that took place with him just 1 week before. Half a dozen people were enjoying a fresh jugs of beer, and 6 people were sitting around in a circle. Our main protagonist, Hinata, was invited by his former classmates to have a get-together after many, many years. They immediately started to talk among each other, and it seemed like they somewhat forgot him and left him all alone. They kept going on and on about the great professions and things they are focused on, and Hinata, on the other hand, was just troubled and left behind. All of his former classmates were already working in fields so great that their pays were visible from afar, and he was just working at a part-time job and had not even tried for a college. He couldn't believe that he was 23, but still there was no hope for him. As one of his classmates shows everyone his YouTube channel, he flexes and tells everyone that he got this many subscribers. Now, once Hinata hears this, he just goes mute and glares at that person. He went on and on about how his content revolves around motorbike customization and stuff like that. As he shared his other part-time job, his friends started to share how his videos get millions of views. As one of the girls glances over to Hinata, they were all so caught up in their own conversation that they didn't even notice him leaving. Hinata, on the other hand, took a toilet break, but as he sat in the seat, he was just exhausted and fed up hearing other people doing so great and making so much money. Back in the days, he was also very active with them and was always the center of attention, but now he couldn't even look at them. As he reflected on these things, a painful flashback reminds him that he can't move on with life, even if he wants to do so. With an absolutely hopeless voice, he reminds himself that no matter what he does, he would never make it and is not good enough at all. Now, as he was about to leave, a few of his friends also decided to visit the restroom, and they started to talk about him and questioned if he is still in high school and enjoying his life. As they started to list the things that they found unpleasant about him, they talk among themselves about how he is still working part-time, and how his parents should feel sorry for a loser like him. As they mocked him, deep down he was truly hurt by their words. As they kept going with their crap, he heard his father say the same things to him, and he remembered how his father reminded him to grow up. Just hearing this, he runs to the toilet seat and he throws up. As the neon light shone brighter, from near them a hopeless human was dangling around the street, and Hinata had come to a point that he had no other option than to run away from everything. As he slipped, he falls down near a pile of garbage, and he kept remembering how his life just hasn't turned around for the best. He kept getting a flashback of where he failed to do something, and as tears overflowed, he told himself that he can't do anything, and in the first place, he can't do a single thing. Ever since he was in high school, he began the endless cycle of odd jobs and did all sorts of jobs to live by, but right now he has become a source of stress and relish for everyone. Wherever he goes, his life just takes a turn, and as he thinks more and more depressing things, he cries to himself and asks about the reason he is alive in the first place. Now that was just a piece of the thing that he endured, but this somehow triggered him into this. All of them also made sure to cover the windows and everything, and the old man tells them that 40 minutes have passed, and he would light the burners now. As he lighted them, all of them inhaled the gas. He cries to himself that if there would be a better start to his life, he would have done everything differently, but as he sank deep into an abyss, something else was about to take place. As 2 hands grab him from the darkness, a boy muttered to Hinata that for what he did, he must atone for that. As he slowly opens his eyes, he gets up and notices that he is no longer on Earth, and somewhere different, and all the other people with him were also present. As one of the girls asked what is happening, Everyone was sure that this was reality, and one of the persons started to worry about going to work if he is found alive. They all were teleported to a forest of some sort, but the sky was abnormally red. It seems like the color red was much closer to blood, but one of the girls interrupts everyone and asks if they know who that girl near them is. As they glanced, a girl was sitting right next to them, and she was looking at them with sorrowful eyes. Hinata was shocked to see that one of the people he knew also resembled her, but he reminded himself that it was not possible. The girl who noticed her approaches her and asks if she knows where they are, but the girl was mute the whole time and didn't say a single word. Hinata was sure that they were abandoned or something, and a man screams at the top of his lungs. One of the persons from the group grabs onto the leader of their group, and with a menacing look, he asks him where they are, and he started to spout how everything that they did was right. Now, as everything was happening, it was clear that that man possessed some serious strength, and he exerted pressure on the old dude, and from the side, the golden-haired girl from earlier approaches the aggressor and calms him down easily. As he throws the old man's tongue starts to go off, and he spouts about how youngsters nowadays just want to worsen things for the older generation. He tells him how he has never really been through the hard parts of life. As this was all happening, a kid's voice suddenly readies them all. He welcomes everyone to the space between hell and heaven, the most unholy, devilish space called purgatory. As we see a small island surrounded by a dark sea of blood, Hinata processes this. The kid keeps going on about how this place is solely designed for people who treated their life with no respect and committed foolish acts. He tells them all to cleanse themselves here. As two of the people started to share their ideas and joked around, the kid tells them that he would allow them all to undergo trials. A beam of light appears near a spot, and he tells them that if someone wants to clear this stage, they must run to the door, and if they clear all the stages, they would be liberated from purgatory. As one of the girls asks about the door, the other rude guy just shuts her down by saying something he could have said in a nicer tone, and everyone had their minds solely focused on something else. The old man screams one more time and told the boy that he doesn't want any other option than what he chose when he was alive. The boy takes a few seconds to respond and tells them all that if they don't want to go through trials and liberate themselves, then there is a demon waiting for them. As he says this, the sky suddenly breaks open, and from it, two hands force their way through, and as Hinata sees the absolutely gut-wrenching sight, a head emerges, but when we see its real body, the word demon can perfectly fit to describe this sight. A 12-meter-tall monster enters the island, and it had a super bloated tummy, and around it was a thick rope, and 3 humans were also attached with it. As he enters, he also brought a weapon that could only be wielded by him, and him alone. As the big monster glares at them, they finally saw the real demon up close who was actually there to chase them through hell. The 2 bodies near him started to mutter some gibberish, but only half of their bodies were visible. The kid tells them to either play the trial, or be dragged by the demon to the pits of hell. As he said this, everyone was in shock. The monster brings out his hand with long nails, and he grabs the group leader. As he asked what he was doing, in the next second, the demon exerted so much force that he completely does something unexplainable to his arm, and as blood spurted from both sides, that man screams out from indescribable pain. The monster, on the other hand, looks at his art, and immediately drinks the remaining blood from it. Now, just seeing this, everyone was sure that they needed to survive all of a sudden, and the fat man shouts at the boy and tells him to give him another chance, and he tells him to accept his request to participate. The boy instructs him to rush towards the arena where the trials would take place, and he wastes no time. As Hinata himself sees the beam of light, the fat man bumps into him and runs away, along with everyone else. As he decided to just run for the light also, just as he was to run, he notices something, and the girl from earlier was just busy processing the horror in front of her. She didn't even move an inch, and as the monster noticed her, he glares at her with his empty eyes. Her stares just catch his attention. Now she was frozen in fear, but the monster, on the other hand, approached her. Everyone else left the girl and ran away, and Hinata was battling with himself. He wanted to just run away, but half of him also wanted to save her. He questions and questions, but there were two problems ahead of him. First would be that he would not make it in time, and the other was that if he ends up getting caught, then the worst would also happen to him. As shivers ran down his spine, and he remembers how he promised to save someone else and couldn't do it, he was weighted down by both guilt and misery. He remembers seeing the tomb of the only person he cherished, and that day he realized that no matter what he did, in the end, it never mattered. As the monster readies himself for something, in the next second, he lifts his weapon over his head, and he keeps reminding him to move and run away. But just as the monster created unmentionable momentum, he decided to just end everything right there. He dashes into the losing battle with nothing on him, and the demon's weapon was just inches away from her face, and Hinata managed to push her out of the range. As they both drop, he immediately gets up and tells her to run. They both began to run with everything that they had, but Hinata ends up falling on the ground. As someone grabbed his legs, the old group leader from earlier managed to crawl so far. He began to mutter about how youngsters should always think about their elders first, and cried out to them to become a decoy for him. Now that dude immediately begins to run and leaves them there, and the trash dashed off, thinking that he left them behind and now he could escape death. He glances at them and mocks them for not treating their elder right, and told them that they deserved this. But just as he was saying this, the monster jumps across and grabs onto him like someone would grab a rat, and he began to shake himself in hopes that he would let go, but the demon kept staring through his soul, and in the next second, the demon throws him over to the hole he entered earlier from. As he entered it, he drops with a loud thud, and he gradually looks up to see the most bizarre and horrifying sight. In hell, there were sane monsters like Hinata encountered earlier, but they all were doing unexplainable things to humans, and the ground was all covered in blood. The demons were also placing humans on spikes and doing other things. As he sees this, he bumps into someone, and a person was begging to be killed so he can stop experiencing this hell. As the demons see him, he spins around and immediately runs towards the gate, but it was too late, as the person who enters hell can never leave. He slams with an invisible wall. He cries out to anyone for help, but his useless cries were already not enough, and his karma finally gets him faster than anything. A dozen hands stretch out to grab him, and do all the horrid things they were enjoying earlier. As the monster lets out an eerie and happy sound, Hinata, on the other hand, knew that if he got caught by him, there would be nothing left. He struggles to get up, but reality hits him, and he notices that his foot got hurt. Earlier when the old man stopped him, he ended up getting his foot twisted. As he glances at the girl, she was already waiting for him and was barely holding on. She clenched her hands tighter and prayed. Seeing her, he knew that there perhaps could not be any other options. He reminds himself that he can't just run away forever, and sooner or later there would be a time for him to stand up. As the monster closed its gap with him. On the other side, the selfish fat man ran all the way and finally saw the light tower. He questioned if this was the place for the trials. He also wondered if the guy with the hood was here or not, and was sure that he was faster, and from the back all the others approach him as well. He tells everyone that he will start, but as he was about to do so, from the back the girl exclaims and tells him to wait for the others. He screams at her and tell her that he can't wait forever, and he lets them know that if the demon catches up to them, then their efforts were all for nothing. As they all were startled by a voice from the back, they all glanced back with fearful eyes, and the little girl from earlier was there all alone. She was completely exhausted and was just about to collapse, and as the golden-haired girl asked if she is okay, she replies and tells her that thanks to the older brother she was able to come here. As she began to tear up, the other dude was just done waiting, and he presses the button. The demon had captured poor Hinata, and as he hung upside down, he was sure that his legs were broken into pieces, and he couldn't feel them anymore. For the first time in his life, he was happy to jump to help someone, and he also reminds himself that he is an idiot for risking his life for a person he has never seen before. He smiles and reminds himself that the weight of someone else's death is much more painful than hell. As he was sure of these things, the monster tosses him to hell as well, and as he was about to enter, he immediately vanishes, and the system declares to everyone that they would now be transported to another space for the trials. As Hinata lands, he opens his eyes to see a bright white room, and all the other people were just near him, and they all were looking at a single screen ahead of them. Later, the trials that they are required to do are something that reveals that humans are worse than demons, perhaps. Hinata meets the golden-haired girl again, and another girl starts to press and become overly attached to him all of a sudden. As this survival run starts, Part 1 ends,